This is episode 218 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Control and Compound Financial. They teach real estate investors how to multiply their wealth using infinite banking strategies. For a complimentary wealth coaching session or to learn more, visit www.controlandcompound.com/Andrew Hines. Welcome back to the show. Today I've got Zack Brittain here with me, and we dug deep on Kitchener-Waterloo, what there is going on there, how investing there works. In specific case study we dug into was the accessory dwelling unit, which if you were following Bill 23 that was passed in the end of 2022, this basically was going to allow municipalities, allow people within municipalities to kind of skip the zoning amendment and go straight to 3 units regardless of what your zoning was. So very similar to what happened with the secondary dwelling unit bylaw that was passed, I believe it was back in 2017. This is kind of taking it to the next level among doing other things. I haven't fully read the bill, but these are some of the takeaways that you can see right on the website for the bill and what it would do as an overview. So Zack and I dug into that, and it's a juicy case study with a 9% plus cap rate attached to it as a investment opportunity. So it kind of makes the opportunity seem like a no-brainer if you already own property that has the space that you could add in one of these garden suites, accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, depending on how you want to refer to them. So it was a great combo. Zack's an interesting guy, very well spoken, and very knowledgeable. He's educated in business and economics, so he loves to dig into the stats and nerd out on that stuff. So we had a great combo today. It was a long one, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. So just before we get into the episode, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast. If you're an audio listener, 5 stars would be greatly appreciated. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave us a comment. Ask your questions. What do you want to know about? Is there a topic you'd like to see covered? What'd you think here? Would really appreciate it. Just more interaction helps get this podcast out to more people. And if you haven't already checked it out, REI Hot Seat is my deal analysis sister channel. Check it out. The link is in the description. And if you're interested in just getting into the nuts and bolts of active deals on the market right now, that's where you want to be. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode with Zack Brittain. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I've got Zack Brittain on the show, and I should have had you on a while back. We met last year, and you were kind enough to help film my campground and for the Canadian Real Estate Channel.
Yep, which was a cool project, really.
Yeah, so that was sort of the beginning of it. I think actually I interviewed you when I was hosting that channel for an update on Kitchener, because you're a realtor and you were doing market updates.
Correct, and I think you might have been down in Florida cooking with some of that stuff. This might have been like last year before things really started hitting the fan.
That's right. Yeah, I've been doing some stuff down there. So let's dig in, Zack. I know we were kind of back and forth. You had some stuff that you wanted to cover today, but very first thing, let's just get into your story. Tell us about why you're here today.
So why I'm here today, one, I do really I started getting into the content creation game, as a way to kind of build my network and really meet people that kind of thought like me. But, it's all about real estate. It's all about real estate, baby.
So your content creation, I know you were doing a lot for Canadian Real Estate Channel.
Yeah, a lot with Peter and social mediation, the Canadian Real Estate Channel. But I realized I was just comfortable being on camera and talking. That's something I kind of figured out in grade 10 film class.
Well, I was going to put that out there as in your intro that you're a good talker, but you just said it. So now I don't have to.
I'll take all that credit. But it wasn't never something that I really shied away from. Presentations in high school, in college, and in university, I'd be yes, I'm pumped about that because I can communicate well like that. But you give me an assignment or a test to sit down and study for, I'm just nah.
Yeah,
this doesn't really. I can't bring my energy to the table with that. I have to. If I'm focused for too long, I get bored. But my big story is when I was going through uni. I wanted to get into investing, and I have to credit my mom for getting me into an investing. Was I took a really kind of long path to get to a career. I mean, for somebody my age, I'm only 31 now, but when I was going through high school, I was I'm done with school. I was getting good grades. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and my mom was okay, I know you're gonna move out west and take a year to figure it out, but promise me you're gonna go back to school. And then she gave me a copy of The Wealthy Barber. And there was 2 problems. One, I didn't know anything about investing or business, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. Two, I like maybe had read 5 books in my life up until that point. Like school was very easy for me. I never really studied in high school, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. But my mom gave me that book, and I was like, oh, I can just like save a little bit of money and invest in something safe, and I can actually like, you know, be well off. Kind of a crazy idea, and that just really planted the seed.
Why school then? I mean, a Wealthy Barber, I feel like most of the stuff in there, like it's more self-education versus going to school. Like, because the school doesn't teach you those concepts.
No, I mean, this was like 10 years ago too. And the expectation at my family was, you know,
you go to school.
You're going to school.
It's tradition. You go to school.
Right. My sister, my dad only did a year or two of college. My mom went to nursing school right after she was done high school. And that's what she did forever and loved it. And here I am having options.
You did business school?
Yeah. So I did 2 years at Conestoga College of International Business, and then went to Prague for 6 months as an international student. You ever get a chance to go to Czech Republic, great time. Yeah. You can ball on a budget. People are super nice. And like, it's just beautiful and clean. And so we did 6 months there, and I came back and I realized I didn't want to travel for work. I was in international business. I was traveling for school. I thought that was really cool. And then I realized I was like, I'd much rather like work at something I love and then spend my free time traveling. And so, you know, I finished off a degree at Guelph for economics and finance. But halfway through that, I realized like, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Nobody's hiring me because my marks. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have connections with the corporate world. I knew I wanted to be in finance or banking, and that was going to get me somewhere there. But my last year, like, I stopped studying. I stopped like really trying to get good grades because I did the math and I wasn't going to be able to get Dean's List.
Yeah.
And I was like, if my grades aren't going to get me my job, what am I going to do? So I joined every club I could. I helped start an investment fund for the students at the University of Guelph with a couple other guys that were like really into investing in the equity markets. I bought my first investment, which was like a gold ETF with OSAP money. Lost $200, made $500, put the money back in the OSAP account, never touched it again. And was just like, okay, like if I wanted to do something, I'm going to have to like start meeting people and talking to people and figuring out.
We're actually doing it, right?
Because the seeing the guys on TV or on social media, like, they're not talking about banking and investing then. It wasn't like really a cool or like a really important thing that I was finding a lot of. So I was like, you know what? Worst case, I make a lot of friends and maybe I learn something. Let's do that. And that was like, boom, perfect. That's how I, you know, really thought of maybe I don't want to get a 9 to 5. I go meet some people that are doing some stuff. And then my business partner now, Matt Phipps, convinced me after a couple of beers to quit my job at the bank and get into real estate, and away we go.
Yeah. So you've been doing a realtor job for how long?
Yeah, that's 6 years. And shout out Matt Phipps. He's my partner. He actually a pretty good story. So my brother-in-law at the time was quitting his job. He was in sales. He was like a recruiter. He was doing pretty well, but he had a few investment properties. He's like, you know what, maybe I'll do this full time. I said, well, hey, my buddy Matt just interviewed with a real estate team that's growing like crazy. Young guy at a Kitchener who's crushing it. And they're looking for new guys. You know, you're in sales, you have experience in real estate, you do well. So he interviewed, he hired my brother-in-law, and then was like, no, like, I'm not going to interview you. Like, I already got my guy. And I was like, crap. I was pretty excited, like, right? So I convinced him to give me an interview, and he didn't want to hire me. And then so I remember the first time I'd ever like wrote something down before I was going to like call somebody. My heart's like beating on my chest. I'm about to call this guy and try and convince him to hire me, even though I know he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And so like I wrote it down. I was upstairs. I was living at my mom's place at the time. I remember exactly where I was. And I wrote it down, and I was like, I called him, and I was just like, he didn't pick up. I was like, oh shit. So I was like, screw it, I'm leaving him a voicemail then. So I just like read it via voicemail and basically was like, you have to hire me and give me a shot. Like, I will not fail, right? Basically just try and say anything and everything to give me the job. He was on a flight. He calls me the next day. He's like, I'm sorry, man, I got the voicemail. I was on a flight. Come in Monday at 8. Boom. Called the bank, quit my job on 3 days notice. Didn't have a license, nothing. Was just like,
to go work in real estate.
I met this guy he was 25 at the time. He'd sold like 80 homes the year before.
Yeah. So you just wanted to learn how he did it.
This guy's a year younger than me, and he's like 10 times further.
I love that methodology.
Just the way he thinks, just the way he talked. I was like, I've never been around anybody that talked about things like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm going to learn more in 6 months here than I will in 10 years working at the bank.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at. Like, that's what I think people should do. Like, go find something you're interested in while you still live in your parents' basement and go do that. Work for somebody for free. Just like that situation. Go work in that job and just absorb everything.
I knew I could afford up to 6 months on my burn rate, how much cash I had in my bank. I was like, if I don't make a dime in the first 6 months, which I didn't because I wasn't selling, I was working for like basically minimum wage. and I was cold calling, like I was, and whatever this guy said, whatever he said, like, yep. And like weekends, evenings, it didn't matter. You know, I had a serious girlfriend at the time, but like no kids, no mortgage. I was living super lean. I had a crappy old car that cost me nothing. I had a cheap cell phone. Like I was just, you know, had nothing, but it was like, I know I'm going to learn from this person and I know there's opportunity in this field. So what the heck do I have to lose? I can always, my worst case scenario, I could go back and get another job for 40 or 50 grand and pay the bills and then figure it out then. Okay. What do you got to lose? See you later, bank. I won't name the bank, but
yeah. So what were you doing at the bank?
Entry level customer service job. And that's no disrespect for that job in that position. You can learn a lot and you can really do well and work your way up. But for me, I always wanted a big life. I wanted a simple life, but I wanted a big life. Like I wanted to do things. I wanted to see the world. And that's still like my long-term goal is like, I want to do stuff. And unfortunately in this world, you need money to do stuff.
Do you ever? You know, now more than you know you used to. I saw somebody put out like how $100,000 salary works. They said buying a $500,000 house with a $100,000 salary and like what your monthly budget would look like. And I saw they had food at $800 a month. I'm like, who's buying food for $800? Groceries for $800 a month?
Yeah, groceries. Okay, if you're spending $800 a month on groceries, where are you shopping?
Like, how are you doing that now? Like, I don't.
And groceries have gotten more expensive, so like maybe it's kind of possible. But like even if I went to like the boutique like grocery store, specialty everything, and I'm eating like steak and seafood a couple times a week, I'd have a tough time spending almost a G on groceries a month.
A month?
Yeah.
How are you doing that, dude? We spend that like a week.
Really?
A week, yeah. Between baby stuff, diapers.
We're okay. We're not talking baby stuff. That doesn't count.
No, like diapers, wipes, like all the food, organic berries. Like my son eats like a $6 organic raspberry a day.
Oh, minimum. Yeah, minimum.
He's a fruit disposal machine.
Yeah. Well, we got the Kitchener Market right down the street from us that we do. And then we do like meal prep services sometimes. But even that can get expensive. And I eat out a ton. Like for me,
so you're just talking you personally. I'm talking us as a family. Like we're.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to know. That's one of the things. Like one of the only things that I don't track my spending on is like my food budget because like that's one of the reasons I work hard.
It's so you can eat what you want.
One of the reasons I work hard is so that I don't have to look at what the meal costs.
And I don't know the exact number either. I just know I see the bills.
If I spent a G on food,
like it's just like one. I mean, for instance, like we do like Instacart because it's just the two of us most days. I'm working, she's at home with the baby. Like if it's too much to get out, we should just order it. Like it's like 150, 200 bucks every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like the delivery fee's only like 10 bucks. And for the convenience, I think that's worth it.
Absolutely.
But I don't know how it all gets that way. But I mean, I look at the items and we eat organic. So obviously that's going to
change it. That's going to change it for sure.
And we literally don't even eat meat, but our dog does. So
actually, that's hilarious. So if you don't, my wife's vegetarian and I eat a lot more veggie too. That's like a big one. But my cheese budget.
Your cheese budget's through there? See, we do
Michelle, she is about the cheese life.
We do the nut cheeses. So that can get expensive.
Yes, it can get expensive.
We went on a huge tangent
food
here.
Basics. My business partner makes fun of me because there's like a Food Basics and a Zayres. And in Kitchener, like Zayres are like the Luongos. They're a little bit nicer, like a Sobeys or whatever. And he's like, oh man, like can't stand going to the Food Basics. And I was like, dude, I'm not paying 30% more to go to the next store over.
Yeah.
You're crazy. And I don't know why, but apparently that's my like cheap level. Is this like, no.
Dude,
like,
we used to as a kid. Yeah, that's what we did, my family. Yeah. I mean, I should go back in there. No frills, Food Basics.
Yeah.
As long as they have an organic section too.
Yeah, see, that's where you're going to miss.
That's where you're going to miss.
Their selection is like dismal compared to.
That's the trick.
Stick to the basics, baby.
Now that we've gone on this tangent. But tell me a little bit about, like, obviously you got into sales. You learned from somebody who's good.
Yeah.
Did you started focusing on investors, or how did that all work?
That's a really good question. So I think our model was more like proof of concept than sell the concept. And what I mean by that was, you know, for anybody that listens, a lot of people that listen to this podcast are probably either self-employed or business owners or some sort of variation. Not all of them are, you know, salaried 9-to-5 jobs. And where I'm going with this is I needed minimum 2 years before anybody would even sniff a mortgage.
Oh yeah.
So, and like, I don't know too many realtors that go out and do a couple $100,000 their first year in real estate. It's pretty rare. And I was not one of them. Like I was barely getting by my first year, and, you know, I'm dedicated, I'm working hard, but, you know, just chips weren't falling my way. And so, you know, my second year I did a little bit better, and then third year a little bit better. And then I finally had, you know, 2 years plus of income to show and had a little bit of scratch saved up. and able to get a mortgage and able to get my first investment property. And that was the Cat P house.
You got a Cat P house?
I got a Cat P house, yeah. And my partner, Matt, he was about a year ahead of me. He had already purchased a property before he'd gotten into real estate, kind of like a live-in house hack flip with one of his buddies. And then him and his wife bought a duplex that they were going to live in. Because he's like, I can sell my single family home, take the proceeds from that, buy a duplex, live in one, rent out the other, live cheap. Simple stuff. And like, just to be clear, if anybody's listening to this and you're thinking, oh yeah, that sounds pretty simple. It is, but it's like wildly effective. Like I did the exact same thing. I bought a Cat P house for about $50K under market value, on market bungalow. My partner, Matt, went to go see it in the morning and I was leaving for a hunting trip that evening. So like I'm scrambling to get all my stuff wrapped up before I leave. And he's like, you got to go see this house. I'm going to buy it if you don't. I'm like, ah, shit. So I go see it. I'm in it for like 5 minutes. I'm like, yep, this is it. Like, this is a layup. This is perfect, right? And about 9 o'clock that night, I'm in the dining room with the listing agent and the seller and my other business partner that I'm going hunting with in the car in the park in the driveway, and I'm negotiating it at the kitchen table.
So you'd already been a realtor for a while, so you knew how to do all that.
I know really like to get into the investing side. Like I had already the basics of finding deals and negotiating contracts and understanding pricing and the basics of that. I was already very well versed in that, and that's just learning by doing and having a mentor to like, hey, well, what about this clause? Okay, well, what about this type of they're saying they're pushing back on closing date, but they're flexible on price. How do I kind of make that fit best for the needs of the client?
That sure helps for finding your own.
Yeah, and identifying value in your home market. Like I was full-time, like 7 days a week for like up until now. Like I still am, but at that time it's like everything, all day, every day. And so we picked up that one as a duplex conversion. Good ceiling height. I looked up, I knew all the zoning requirements. My partner and some of our clients had kind of done some of them before. That was really starting to pick up steam in the Waterloo region market. Because you're getting a huge value bump. There's a huge need or huge lack of inventory for single family homes and affordable rentals. And you can convert a single family home into a rental property of 2 legal units that you could get premium rents for. There's just a much bigger bump. This was maybe about 4 years ago.
Okay, so you're like 2019 time frame?
Yeah, and like, bought it for $425. It was on the market for $450. Knocked $25K right off the bat. And this is when properties were selling over asking, because I went in and was like, guys, like, you might get $450, but like the property needs some significant work. And I mean, absolutely no offense, but I'm sure buyers are going to come through this and they're going to say, well, we need to take care of the smell and, we got to clean up pretty much everything. And so that was a way for me to negotiate a favorable deal under market value. And so I just saved myself $25K and like, had my 20% down, had no cash.
How much did you invest in it to?
We were probably all in. It probably took me about 160, 150 all in to do the upstairs and the downstairs because like I was doing a bunch of the work. And I know it's a podcast, but like I got soft hands. So people listening, like I got desk hands. I am not a handy guy. Like don't give me the power tools. And I knew that I wasn't interested in that, but I knew that I needed to do it because one, I didn't have the money.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. My first one, yeah.
Right, I didn't have the money to pay a good contractor to do it. Like straight up, just that wasn't in the budget. And two, now like I know what it takes.
Yeah, it's super handy to have done that, yeah.
So when a contractor is explaining to me that they need to do this, this, and this, it's like, okay, well, not only do I, I've walked the smallest bit of that walk.
Yeah,
but
we have a similar story in that regard because I did a little bit, I love using like power tools and actually doing stuff. It's just like, that's more of a hobby. Like I don't want to do it because there's a gun to my head. Like I got to get it done.
And I think identifying what you like and why and what you can really bring value to is like a big part of just being a successful investor. And that was like, I did the math before we bought it. I was renting a place in downtown Kitchener with my partner and Michelle and I were like, we could live for $100 more on a monthly basis after I buy this place, renovate it, refinance it, and pay off the private loan to finish the renos. Our monthly is plus $100. I can afford that, and I have a property, and I'm going to keep that property forever. We're actually going to put a tiny home in the back.
So why would you be more? Why are you $100 more? Than what?
More than our rent, essentially. Our rent
plus your current rent. Yeah. Okay, so you'll pay a little bit more, but you'll have a secondary tenant there. Yeah. Now you have an investment that's adding value to.
Yeah, and so I refinanced it, got all my money, all my cash back, and then went and dumped that into 2 other projects, and that was it. And then you're off to the races. I was just
and you said you had a private mortgage. Did you private first or private first and second?
No, a lender on the buy, and then a little bit of private loan from the bank of mom. I took $60K from her to finish off the renovation. So I burned through all of our cash.
So you had some of your savings and then, and
And then after the refi, paid mom back the 60 grand, and then she refused to take the interest that she promised, that I promised I'd pay her. She refused to take it, so I took her and my sister on a trip to Costa Rica instead. They didn't say no to that. I was like, win-win. I was like, all right, well, once I buy the tickets, you're not going to say no.
Has that been your model since, to go in and BRRRR properties that way, or are you doing something different now?
Good question. I think we were really guided by like what the opportunities were in our market. We were myself and my partner, Matt, he runs the sales business with me and he's my investment partner along with another partner of ours, Kevin. And we started to get together maybe just after end of 2019. And we're like, you know, they'd done a couple flips together. Now that I had cash to bring to the table because I'd done a successful project, they were like, ooh, maybe we can do more at the same time, or we can do bigger stuff. And in our market, flips were still single family flips, still had meat on the bone for those. Duplex conversions were like a good mix between a single family flip and like a triplex, fourplex BRRRR, and they were readily available. So we would go for a triplex, fourplex BRRRR. If we couldn't find any of those or the numbers couldn't work, all right, then we'll go back and we'll start offering like more aggressively on duplex conversions, because we had done 3 or 4 of those kind of combined. We kind of had those numbers locked down. Yeah. So you could basically, you walk in 5 minutes. We're like, all right, we know we can net this after we turn around and sell it or refinance.
And the one you did with your girlfriend, is it your girlfriend or your wife?
Wife now, but
yeah, wife. The one is, so that was yours together.
That one I did on my own. And since we were, the market in 2019, 2020 was still going up pretty aggressively in Waterloo region, between the value we added and the market appreciating in, you know, kind of that 6-month window for the project, we were able to refi out a significant chunk, tax-free, go roll that into the next few projects. You know, the market's still going up.
And you did those projects with your partners?
Yeah, project with my partner, Matt. Most of those duplex conversions, if we could get, you know, next year's price today when the project's done, all right, we'll offload it. We'll take the gains and we'll move on. But if we weren't getting the offers that we'd like, one strategy we often went with was we'd list it for sale and for rent at the same time. Okay. And so the reason being is, one, it was vacant, so we could get a lot of showings in quick and there wasn't any issues with tenants. 2, if we were getting really good applicants for our tenants at really good rents, then we're more inclined.
And this is after you've already done the reno.
Permit's done, everything's closed up, we got it staged. So it's looking as good as it can. We take all of our media.
So you just see if they're going to give you an offer you like, you take it. I like that. Everything's for sale at the right price.
Everything. I say there's a few properties in the.
You say I don't want to sell it, but then somebody comes and offers, situation changes. Somebody offers you a price. Okay.
Yeah. And so we started doing a lot of duplex conversions. That was our bread and butter, because our fallback was, if we have to keep it, we can refi almost all of our renovation and our down payment money out. We could still get A lending for those as well, which is like so juicy.
Thinking about your
so juicy,
your backup plans. So you got to be thinking about those.
Yeah, and a big methodology for us was, what is our like 1, 2, and 3 option with this property? And with the smaller stuff, we had multiple options that made good logical sense.
I call it A, B, and C. But yeah.
So the A plan was, all right, if we can flip it for enough profit, we take it, because then we're stacking profits to go buy bigger stuff.
And what's enough profit? Like, you have partners in on this. So.
Yeah, the minimum we would do for a single family flip is like, we need to be making $30K minimum after everything. And that's a smaller deal. And that's like really conservative.
So you try to do better, but if it's
$10K a month.
Yeah.
Project should take us 3 months beginning to end. We should be about $10K a month for it to be worth our squeeze at the time. But like in actuality, you're more like 50 to 80K on those single family flips, and then closer to 100, 150 on the duplex conversions. So
see, that's amazing.
That's great money.
Yeah. And see, Sean Allen used to come on. Every time I talked to him, he'd say, "Oh, 20K minimum. That's what we make." But he never actually told me until I pried more. Oh, well, no, rarely are they 20. That's like an absolute worst case scenario.
Yeah, and like our model was, you know, if it doesn't appreciate and during the time that we're doing it, can we make 30K on it comfortably? And since myself and my partner Matt are full-time realtors, like we know.
Yeah, you can move it. You don't have to pay.
I'm not paying, yourself. One side commission.
You're only paying one side of commission, which is huge. You're going to list the property yourself, as you know what appeals. You understand how to stage it to make it sell.
Gives me inventory to list.
Yeah,
so
gets your name on things, so now you're getting calls and you're getting new clients out of it too.
And so it just made a ton of sense. And like that's kind of where the ding, ding, ding light bulb went on. We were already naturally heading there, but we didn't like verbally look each other in the eyes and say the words, "Oh shit, maybe we should really just focus on working with investors," until maybe like 2 years ago. right? 21, let's call it.
So then you just slid over to working with investors at that
Well, then
point?
it's just like, well, shit, we've done this enough times. I have dozens of projects that we've done with success, you know, that we've been profitable on. We have a Rolodex of contractors, financiers, lawyers, accountants on deck for our people that are going to need those things if they want to take it seriously. And then we can say, hey, look, you know, I can look at a property on the MLS now and be like, you buy it for this. This is how much it's going to cost you. Here's your net result. If you finance it like this is how much you make. If you finance it like this is how much you make.
The key success factor, I think, to being an investor-focused realtor is you have to be an investor yourself. Like, some people say they don't want that. I feel like that's a mistake. If you work with a realtor who's not, like, they just, certain things they won't get.
Yeah.
They can't think like you because they don't think like you.
And it's mind-boggling how few realtors are actually invested in real estate.
Yeah. I find that very strange when I find out, like, you know, even the ones that just flip and they never own anything, I find that odd. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you want to invest in it? You know, but then again, flipping's a business. I no problem with that. I find it interesting.
Yeah. But like, I went into real estate super blind. Like, I had no idea what real estate was actually like. I don't even know if I'd met a realtor before. And like, so when I got into the business, I just assumed that like everybody was into real estate. Like you were.
Yeah. Like I was. Yeah. That used to be me. I used to get in trouble by my wife because all I would talk about with people when we went out is just real estate. Every conversation would end up being about real estate. She's like, you know, people don't want to just talk about that all the time.
But the people that do,
some people do, yeah,
are like super into it. And I'm like, you're my people, right? I thought I was going to be a stock guy. I thought I was going to be a finance guy. And I still am. Like, I still have that as a part of my like long-term wealth building strategy, let's call it. But like, I get so much more control in real estate. And I love that.
Real estate is work though. And as much as we can create systems, like, you gotta want it. You gotta know why. And sometimes I take for granted that, to me, it was like a language that I spoke because I'd been around it since, well, I mean, as a student, I was always aware of it. You know, I was looking at all the student rentals, crunching numbers and saying, this is ridiculous. I need to be owning these. and then, you know, working under Carmen for all those years and kind of learning from her.
Yeah.
You know, it's insane to not invest in real estate if that's who you surround yourself with, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so to me, it was like the language that we speak. But for some people, no one around them is doing this. And if they're not super clear, if that person's not super clear on why they want to, I don't think they stick with it, because they'll probably get into a single family home, get a bad tenant, and hate the experience and then get out.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think a big thing that we've really learned and that I've identified with is, you only got, a couple of tenants or a couple of units or a couple of properties, and one thing goes wrong with one of them. Oh, baby, that is a big freaking
good way to get out.
Yeah. And I think it ruins the investment for a lot of people. And I totally get why. You imagine you're working a 9 to 5, making okay money. You done well, you saved, maybe you made a few smart investments enough to go buy an investment property, and then your tenant stops paying you rent. And all of a sudden, you and your wife are strapped because you got 2 kids in school that are doing normal family stuff. You don't have tens of thousands of dollars to float this property. And then you're like, well, I've made a little bit of money on it. Might as well sell it. And I'm never doing this whole real estate thing again.
Yeah. And then it ruins it for people.
And it's just like, it's such a shame. But so for us, it was more like understanding by doing, and then bringing our proven track record.
For sure.
And that sounds like almost like a sales pitch. But at the same time, it's like, the amount of realtors that don't invest in real estate blows my mind. And then the amount of realtors that aren't very good at it alone also blows my mind. And very quickly, our business has turned into like, we are real estate agents. We sell real estate, but like over half of our business is investors. A lot of first timers, a lot of people looking for their first value add projects, or like get their first like long-term hold because they've done some pre-cons that they flipped, or they got some townhouses in our market. Like in our market, like 6 years ago, you could cash flow positive a townhouse. Now, just like, good luck. So people that have been in it but haven't really been active, all of a sudden they're seeing the lights turn on and be like, well, maybe I can take this a little bit more seriously, or maybe I can pour a little gas on the fire. And those are a lot of people that are coming to us because we have experience from like the single family flip up to the smaller multi-unit BRRRRs. And those skill sets are transferable for the types of deals that are more conducive in our market. But like, we learn by doing, and then we can go to our database and go to our network and go to our new clients and be like, no, we do it this way, and here's why.
So what's working now in your market? Because Kitchener, even before all the last craziness of the last few years, was a little bit tougher to make good cash flow in compared to like markets like London, which now that kind of difference has sort of been erased in a way.
Yeah, good question. And I think before I answer that, if you don't mind, can I go on like a Waterloo region rant real quick? Okay. So for those of you guys that don't know anything about Waterloo region, because I get a lot of people that are from the GTA and they're like, yeah, I drove through once. And you're just like, yeah, I probably would be the same thing too if I was living in the GTA. Like, why are you? There's no point really in going to the Waterloo region unless you're there for work or for family, right? But Waterloo region is like 3 old cities that grew into each other, and Cambridge and Kitchener are separated by the 401. And like one thing that the area did really well was they really pushed the universities hard, like probably about 30, 40 years ago is when they really started being like, ooh, maybe we have something here. So University of Waterloo, Laurier, and Conestoga College, they were all starting to like really spend. Campuses, recruitment, attracting teachers, attracting students. And then they all made a really big push for international students. Where I'm going with this is there's about 45,000 people that go to University of Waterloo every year. It's a city.
45,000? That's more than Western.
45,000. Laurier, 21,000. Conestoga, 20.
Is that total including faculty?
Yes. No, that's students. That's students. And then Conestoga College, 29,000. Even crazier stat. So my wife teaches at Conestoga College casual, and she said that she got a memo that 50% of the students this past year were international students at Conestoga College. Whoa.
How? Like, I don't get that. Like,
because, and you know,
where are they coming from?
Majority of them coming from India, because they can come over. They're coming over with degrees. Like I met,
and then they're doing like technical stuff in college.
They can do a 1.5 year college, get a diploma or certificate, get a full-time job making 60, 70, 80 grand a year, get a PR, family can come over.
Yeah, so that's why they're doing it.
And it makes a ton of sense. And they see Waterloo region as the closest, cheapest option outside of the GTA.
Yeah. What about Hamilton? Probably similar.
And a very similar market in terms of like cost to build, cost to live, income. But I was doing a bunch of research too. Like I'm a big stats guy. Coming from economics and finance, like I like data. And so like Waterloo EDC is a good website. Waterloo Economic Development Council, I believe that's the acronym or whatever. But they do lots of stuff on like tech, income, employment, and basically, you know, Waterloo Region's branded itself as the new tech town, right? And so they have all this data on, and it makes sense. I mean, Waterloo is math and science and engineering. Laurier is business. Conestoga College is applied science. So, you know, your trades, a lot of your, you know, lower level IT jobs, business development, that type of stuff. And so they've branded themselves as like this tech town, and they have all this data. And it's like the other major North American tech players, your Bostons, your New Yorks, your Torontos, your San Franciscos. Waterloo region is the highest wage growth for the tech industry, the highest spend per capita for venture capitalists in the tech industry globally. They're number one. So
the city is
the city itself. And then it's lowest wages for tech employees by a mile. So, and it's the cheapest per square foot for rent or for build.
So I feel like there's a huge draw for internationals at Waterloo.
And the thing is too, it's a safe place. So, and one thing, and I'm unconfirmed source, a lady that works for the social services in Kitchener and Waterloo, I met her at the hospital when we took our baby there. You know, not life and stuff. Everybody's okay. But I was talking to her, and she's like, oh yeah, like they don't, they lobbied the government so they don't allow homeless people in Uptown Waterloo. And I was like, what? I never heard anything about that. She's like, yeah, of course you didn't. And I was like, why? She's like, all the international students. How could they convince all these rich, you know, international families to send their students there? Like you go on the campus, it's kind of similar to Western. Like, I see a couple Ferraris on campus every now and then. Yeah.
And you will from the international students. They'll be driving those.
And you're just like, you know, what is going on here? And then I'm like, that kind of makes sense. So a lot of the social services went into Kitchener. Kitchener got the bus station and got all the social services because that's where all the transit hubs were. And Waterloo, they're nice and clean. All the international money can keep flowing there.
Yeah.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
So do you like student rentals, or do you just like what it does to the area?
I like what it does to the area long term, because as an investment, not really my cup of tea. The headaches, I just can't be bothered.
There's a lot of competition for student rentals. I mean, this is going back a few years. Now with the housing crunch, I probably doesn't even matter. No,
in Waterloo region specifically, a lot of the big developers lobbied the municipal government to put in these new regulations and inspections because they wanted to start building and developing. And they knew that smaller time student rentals or student rental landlords were just squishing as many bedrooms as they can. So they're like, ooh, I know how to get them. Let's just make, inspections mandatory. So all these properties get inspected. So now they're illegal. So now there's less play for the smaller guys. Big guys just moved in and they started building all these beautiful, condo style or apartment shared living space style, like purpose-built student rentals. And that was like kind of starting to really happen when I was going through uni. A lot of those were like,
even before too. I think.
So about 15 years ago is when they really started booming, and it's still going. But for me, like that's how my parents got invested in real estate. So Jeff Reitzel out of Keller Williams in Kitchener, they used to do seminars for investing, and my parents went to that. And when my sister and I went to University of Guelph, they picked up a student rental or two there, and that was like their real estate foray. And I was just like, I know I was a pretty responsible kid, but like, I know what students are like. I don't want a part of that. Like long-term quiet tenants, please and thank you.
I think it's the how with the student rentals, because I had a great experience investing in student rentals, but I've also had a bad experience investing in student rentals. So you gotta do it right.
Yeah.
And get around people who are doing it right. That's how you learn.
Yeah. You can do anything in real estate investing properly. There is upside.
Yeah, in each category, there's a good way to do it and a bad way. And so for you, it's a lot of the BRRRR projects, and that's what your clients are doing too. Yeah. BRRRR projects, small to medium, mid, multifamily. Yeah,
and so our model right now is we will add value, try and get our money back with the BRRRR if we can, and then flip on the side to build up our cash position. Long term, we can continue to do that, and we would do very well. Long term, though, we're ready to move up. So
scale up.
Yeah, we're looking for. I don't know if you've ever done the math on your portfolio, but like properties that you've sold, what would it have been if you kept them?
Oh yeah, I try not to do that.
My partner did it once, and he told me, and I was like, never tell me that ever again. But then it was just like, okay, now we really got to focus on how do we acquire and keep as much as we possibly can, and we're at that stage where we're battling ourselves for, getting good lending. Our ratios are good, but policies are really tapping us out.
Yeah, you really got to start looking into the commercial credit unions, and then you're gonna have to either be a little bit more money in the deal, probably that, and a little less cash flow because you're gonna pay a slightly higher rate.
Yeah, and you got it. And so our big thing right now, Andrew, is we're going to have to move into the commercial financing, and we're going to have to bring more money down. So if we're bringing more money down and we're going to go commercial financing, okay, then why aren't we taking those bigger chunks? Why aren't we moving up into your 8, 10
natural
plus
progression? Like everybody thinks small, and I've been having this conversation with people lately because it's been on my mind. I've done several episodes digging into development, and I don't know, like sometimes I'll think an episode's going to do crazy well, and then it won't. And this is like, I don't know, like if I'm judging by like a comment or I get a couple of DMs or whatever, or how many views it gets on YouTube or downloads on SoundCloud or whatever. And with the development one, I was kind of scratching my head, and I'm like, is it that when I have people come on and talk about developing in other countries and doing developments in general, it just seems unattainable, even though it's not. I don't think, like this, because I ask these questions because I'm genuinely curious, and it's the progression. It's going from super simple initial, like what most of us did, bought a single family to start.
Yep.
Then you get into a duplex or whatever, BRRRR, renovations, and you work your way up. There's a natural progression.
100%.
And I guess this, the reason I bring this up is there something about it that could make it easier? Like, when you're talking bigger buildings, or when, I don't know if you've ever even thought about getting into developing as well, so that there's more there. There's a bigger slice of the pie potentially there, or even a same slice of the pie, but a bigger pie.
So I think maybe one of the reasons why, if you, whatever metric you're using to judge how successful those episodes are about development is, I think you kind of said it without saying it, is a lot of people just can't think that it's possible.
It's hard to relate to.
I thought before I got into real estate, I was like, if I ever get up to making $100,000 a year, I fucking made it.
Yeah.
My naive, like I was I would like to say I was a pretty well, rounded and educated individual for an 18-year-old, 19-year-old. I had a lot of really positive and big life experiences, traveling, doing lots of stuff. But I was like, $100,000. And you're like, baby, life is good. Woo-wee. And then you realize like, how small you were thinking back then, and you're just cutting yourself short. So for people that are listening to this, if like whether it's dreaming to make a certain level of money or to have certain things, like your mind is the only thing holding you back.
Your mind is the barrier.
Like,
yeah.
It is the barrier holding you back.
And I think, and I said this so many times, it is a lack of clarity about what it is that you want. And a lot of people are afraid, you know, the dare to dream thing, like afraid to actually say what it is that they want and get clear about that. And we're all guilty.
Absolutely. Quickest way to figure something out, though, is go find somebody that's doing something that you think you want to do. Just go try and be as close to them as possible for as long as it takes for you to figure out if that's what you want.
Well, and you start to see some cool things, like, because people who you think are doing cool things, go hang out with them and you'll be like, oh, wow, you do that? That's cool. I want to do that.
Yeah. And it's crazy how normal a lot of these people are.
They make things that you start speaking the language.
And like, you know, somebody that's got 300 or 400 units, you're like, oh my God, like this is just some old rich dude from family money that's just sitting up at the cottage and they're just doing whatever the heck they want. And that's honestly usually so much further from the truth. They are more than likely somebody that is exactly like you. Had a aha moment where like, oh shit, maybe I can actually do something like this. And then they just go out and do it step by step. And that's my partner Matt's thing, is like, he is very much like this. Okay. Then after we've done this, the next step is that. And then the next step is that. And the same thing for like when we're picking a specific deal or when we're picking like a goal for a year. It's like, okay, well, last year we did this. That made a lot of sense. This year, I'm going to go attack this, this, and this. And for us, like, we're at the part of our business where, look, we could keep doing what we're doing now. We can do great, and that's fine. But we're at the point where, like, you know, we're looking to build our network. We're looking to partner up. We're looking to reach up for the people that have been crushing the deals 1 or 2 levels higher than us.
Yeah.
See if we can't get somebody on board to help us with some of their smaller deals, or if we can just be around and learn from them, because that's one of not only the most effective way to learn quickly, but also just like, oh my God, you may make a friend and you may actually make some money and you may actually like learn something. Like, it's not overcomplicated.
You know what I just find interesting? Like, a lot of people, I feel like they need to get in that circle. And then there's the occasional one where I can't quite figure it out. We have these old family friends that they came over from Europe when I was a kid, bought a farm around the corner from where I grew up, you know, worked that farm like crazy, eventually sold it, you know, bought another business up north. And they created $100 million a year sales business. And like, we're talking like 10% plus profit margin. Like, they're just crushing. And I'm like, how did you go from such humble, basic beginnings and just
working the land,
work it up, you know?
And it's people underestimate what you can do. Like, they'll be like, they'll overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in 5.
Yeah.
And I'm like that.
Yeah.
I used to be so much more like that. Be like, oh, I'm going to do all this stuff this year. But literally, if you just like, some of the guests that you've had on lately, a couple of them said very similar things. They're like, just go and do it.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like a really like,
well, that's like the Robbie Clark thing. I don't know if you ever followed him. Like, they just decided he and Dylan, they were going to do 100 million in real estate acquisitions, and they must have already done that. Like, I don't know. Like, that was like the first time I had him on back in 2019.
Yeah, they're definitely there now. And it's just like, I think for our business, and like, to answer a question you asked previously, like, yeah, we want to get to development. That's a natural progression. So we were doing over $1 million a year in renos, just ourselves, for our own projects. And we had a friend of ours that was a partner on a bunch of our deals who was running a painting business. And we're like, hey, why don't you ditch the painting business, go contracting with us, run the contracting business. It'll improve our projects. You'll probably end up making more money. And 2, we can do more projects so that our, you know, our investment kind of group portfolio will grow more and quicker. And then he's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So then we brought another one of our good friends on board who used to work small projects for the city of Kitchener. Really detail oriented, very exact with everything, and knows the inner workings of the planning division at the city of Kitchener, which is our home market. So come on. And
bringing people into the team that are strategic.
Yeah. And like, these are all friends of mine. But it takes a few years to really figure out how serious those friends are. And like, they really want the same things, but like, got like 4 or 5 people in my life that are around the same kind of level as I am in terms of like business and, you know, capacity to go execute on things, I think is maybe a good way to put it. And they also want things. Yeah. They want to see if we can grow a business. They want freedom. They want to be able to do what they want to do whenever they want to do with their families, which is a big reason I got into real estate, because you could control that. If I work harder, I get paid more. I was like, oh, I'm down to work hard. Yeah. Like, I'm down with that. And, so the team we put together, they run the construction business full time. Like I said, I got desk hands. Like, nobody wants me on the tools. I, myself and my partner, Matt, can go work with our clients that are buying, selling, those deals are a little bit more straightforward. A lot of single family homes, but then the other half of our business is single family flips, BRRRRs, duplex conversions. ADUs are big in our market now. We're breaking ground on our
third unit, basically.
Yeah, tiny homes. Except my partner Matt told me I couldn't say tiny homes anymore because he's like, man, some of these that we're quoting are like 750, 850 square feet. He's like, that's bigger than any condo that they can get in the market. It's not tiny. And I was like, fine. Yeah, he's so proper all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's a tiny home. And so we're breaking ground. We're doing 3 of those on our own properties this year, I think. And we got 1 lined up for a client as well.
Okay, so we're going to run 2 types of numbers right now. First number we're going to run is an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
ADU.
Yeah.
Which not every city has approved yet.
No.
But Kitchener, Waterloo have.
Kitchener has their hands up screaming, saying, come build units here.
So they want the rear yard units.
Yes. They want anything they can get. So before Dougie brought in his new bill, basically being like, yes, let's build. City of Kitchener rezoned pretty much anything around their downtown corridor to be like, if you can fit it with the parameters, put an extra unit on any of these
they actually
lots.
want it. And it's not one of those like London did it, but like literally
But nothing fits.
no property will actually qualify.
Yeah.
Because they just made their requirements way too hard.
Yes. And so Kitchener is kind of the opposite route. And they're saying, hey, we know we need new units. I'd rather people permit it and we make adjustments on the permit. We can be a little flexible there. And so like we've done lots of permitted work and they have to get back to you in 10 days. So the city of Kitchener mandate when a new permit is submitted, they have to get back to you in 10 days or less. So as long as you don't screw up your first permit application, you're getting it approved.
Yeah. The thing that'll stop the clock is if you make a mistake or if you omit one detail. And a lot of times what I would find is a certain municipality would go looking for something they could call a mistake.
Yeah.
And they just were trying to buy their way out of the 2-week requirement.
Yeah.
Because that's a province-wide thing.
And they're so understaffed. Like I feel bad for the inspectors and the people working the planning divisions is because there's just not enough of them.
So if we did an ADU, like what are you going to get in Kitchener? Because I really want to just isolate that financial decision. I've already got a property.
Yeah.
What if I were to add a unit in the backyard? What am I looking at in terms of rent for one of those units? Say I build one of the 700 square foot ones.
Yeah.
That's going to be 2 bed.
Nice. You got a 1 bedroom plus den or a 2 bedroom. Like you could probably, if it's a 2 bedroom, you're probably renting it out for like $2,400.
So say you're getting a $2,400 on that rear yard. Theoretically, you could go to the bank and get them to appraise that into the value. I don't know what banking policy is for that on the residential side. It may be a little tight still, but if you go commercial, I bet you can find a lender that'll
100% commercial. You can. We haven't actually finished that on the back end yet, but like,
and I haven't done it either. That's why I'm just saying. Like, I mean, I'm just speaking in theory here.
From all the conversations we've had, that is much more likely. But like, where I think these make the most sense right now too is if people have existing properties they want to add value to.
Right. And that's why I'm isolating that in the numbers here. So say like, what's going to happen to your taxes if you do this? They're going to reassess you. Are they going to add $1,000 a year to your taxes for that?
No,
I don't think so.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I'd be a little cheesed if they did. And
I'm just assuming they would. Like I added a rear unit to a place in London and they jacked the taxes $1,800 a year.
Come on.
3 years later. So they did a retroactive assessment for 3 years.
Did they make you pay the
all at once.
Yes.
So just like get it at the end of the year last year, and it's like you owe $9,800.
Your property taxes for something that was done 3 years ago. Oh, what a kick in the ass. So if you're gonna go, like, do you want to do this for like an existing property or like
so we're doing straight up existing concepts.
Okay.
So we're gonna start at the top. We're gonna say what's the additional rent. We're gonna work through the expenses, and then we're gonna look at what does it cost to add that and calculate a return on investment.
Yeah.
So in even the additional mortgage amount, let's just say you did a blended increase and you got an extra bit of mortgage on it. So we're going to go through that concept.
Yep.
So insurance wise, you're probably going to pay maybe an extra $1,000 a year.
That's probably fairly close.
So we'll call the taxes an extra $1,000, the insurance an extra $1,000. Maintenance will do the 5% on that. Utilities, you're hoping the tenant's going to pay everything there.
Yeah. So you're going to have to completely run everything.
All new services.
For virtually everything that we've seen.
So you're trenching it in. You're going to bring somebody out for a day and they're going to trench in all your services. That's not cheap.
No.
You can potentially connect to the plumbing in the existing house and run through the house.
Yeah, but if you're digging all that up, might as well just make it separate.
Depends though. If you have to go through a driveway, what's cheaper, busting into the back wall of your house and catching the main stack, assuming code will allow you to. Or going around. And I've done the busting into the wall and connecting, but you could easily, I know many people who do the ladder and go around the house.
And again, it's going to depend where the driveway is or where the hookups are. And in a lot of these older areas, a lot of big ass trees.
And are you going right into the road? Do you have to go into the road, or are they allowing you to take the water service? Like, say you have, what's the standard service? 1 inch?
Again, like, it depends. Some areas will have that and other areas just straight up won't. So you'll have to go right to the street.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. This is the thing. Like in London, it was like, you have to tap into the water main in the road for every single unit. You could do the additional unit, but if you wanted separate meters, you have to tap in.
In a lot of the areas where the lots are likely more conducive of like making these work very easily, then you could probably just get away with like not going all the way to the street.
And we'll get into that. So you're saying hypothetically, the ones you're looking at, could you just connect in the front yard? Like you could just find your main.
That's probably what you're gonna do.
Yeah, as long as it's big enough. Like that, and that's the thing.
Is if it's not, then you're going right. Then you're going right to the street, and you're like, sweet, guess I'm paying for a new driveway.
It's more paying the city's fee. Like in London, it used to be you pay the city $5,000 for their portion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Into the street, which was a deal. I don't think it's that cheap anymore. And then you do, so the city would contract that, and then you would do the part on your property, which is probably another $5,000.
Yes.
But if you're going to your backyard, think more like 10.
Yes.
Okay, so utilities, we're gonna assume all separate.
For that, that's what at least I would try to do.
Yes. Yeah, zero. And if you're doing it from scratch, you could avoid gas, although union gas, in my experience, the connection is free. So why not do it?
And the gas can give you an option for things like fireplace as well.
Yeah, exactly. It leaves your options. The ones you're going to pay for are your sanitary, your water, bringing them in. But union gas, they like to sell their gas, and they like to be very good about it.
Probably cheaper than baseboard heat.
Right, and then hydro or electric. In my experience for new services, Hydro One may give a credit back, so you might be able to get some of that money back for your connections.
I'm not banking on getting enough money to move the needle, but you got a separate hydrometer back there.
Yeah, you're going to want a separate hydrometer, so you're just want to budget for that. Management, I'm going to just leave a 1% just in case somebody's going to self-manage, but we can play with that. Landscaping and snow for that additional unit. I mean, if you were already doing it, you're going to pay maybe an extra $50 to $100 a month. It depends, because you're just basically, if you're sectioning up the yard a little bit, I would try and put it on the tenants that you each cut your own portion.
And after doing it both ways, both taking responsibility and having tenants take care of it at some different properties, highly recommend negotiating that to have your tenants take care of it.
Yeah, you just section up the yard. Hey, this part of the yard's yours to cut, and the other part is the front tenants, and that's always worked for me, so I like that approach. But let's just we'll throw $100 in there for landscaping snow just in case. Nothing else I don't think we need to consider for this for ongoing expense.
No, I think the only one that we would really change would be property management. But like for a lot of people that are going to do these ADUs, they're probably going to be self-managing.
Yeah.
At least for a couple.
You can play with it. Yeah. So then now let's look at what's it cost to do that.
That's a very good question. So I think we've quoted both our own jobs and clients, you're anywhere from 200 to 300
to put that in the backyard.
Yeah, and so like depending on the bells and whistles, but if you're going for like a 8 out of 10 quality on the finish, and you just don't want to break the bank too much, you're paying a 7 out of 10 price for the work, $250.
Let's just run it at 250, and we can play around with that.
Yeah, and that's like a 700, maybe 750 square feet.
So the point of doing this was really to get at like, can we get some good cap rates? Like what's your ROI on this? And if you're $250 to build something that's 700 square feet, 2-bed, service, get everything back there, get it done. And I'm guessing you're doing it on a slab, concrete slab?
For most of these you will. We are looking at ones with basements as well though. So like that could be sweet, because then you could put
a bedroom down there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so let's say you could do it for $250. That cap rate works out to be 9.83%. Assuming you're self-managing.
And I'm going to tell you right now, that's a lot better than what you can get on the market these days.
Right. You're not buying brand new construction at a 9.83.
You're not buying anything at a 9 cap rate right now.
So let's just say that you went to your lender and you just got an additional mortgage at current market rate. So you did the blended increase. So we're going to isolate the mortgage on that portion of the property. Say they gave you 75% at 30-year AM, so you're still going with the residential lenders.
Yeah, I like that you're going 75% too, because you're not getting that. They're not getting that 80-20 as readily on this stuff anymore.
Maybe not. Yeah. So just being cautious. Here. So let's just say 75%. So that's 187. So that means you're coming in with basically $60,000-$70,000 of your own money to make this work.
Yep.
And 30-year AM, 5.4% interest rate. I know we're hovering in that ballpark. That's $1,000 a month in cash flow on that isolated decision.
Yeah. So what we started running numbers on, this is kind of what we're getting to. And so what we started running numbers on is like, okay, well, what does it look like if we pay cash for them?
Yeah.
And then what does it look like if we borrow privately for them? And then what does it look like if we take a HELOC on the property we're going to put the ADU on and use that instead, then refinance it? And then you're like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I got options.
I'm seeing a cash on cash return here of 18%. Like, I'm telling you, I run numbers when almost every guest that comes on this show, and we don't see those kind of numbers.
And so what I think what's going to happen, and this is like our construction business, that is literally that, and like additions and basement conversions is like what we want to target, because the numbers just make so much sense for so many different people that are going to be homeowners and investors in our local market. Yeah.
And you could run similar numbers if you had a single fam and you're thinking, well, what if I convert the basement? A little bit of a different dynamic there. If you have a tenant in the unit already, it doesn't work as cleanly, and it actually negatively affects your existing unit. Whereas I don't think this really does. I mean, it does to a degree. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if your existing tenants are there and you're putting a house in the backyard, they're not going to love you for that.
No.
And how do you navigate that with your tenants?
So, good guy Zach, I'm the tenant negotiator. I'm very empathetic, very much what I would consider a people person. So I was the designated tenant negotiator. And a lot of it's just going to be complete honesty. Hey, look, guys, here's what we're doing. Here's what I'm proposing. Probably some sort of rental discount for the period of time during the renovations. Like, it's going to be Monday to Friday during the hours of operation. Most of our tenants aren't necessarily work from home for a lot of our properties. So, we'll give them a little bit of rent discount. And if that's really a deal breaker for them, hey guys, a few months before, we're planning on breaking ground in June. I'll happy to give you a little bit of a rent discount. Here's what I propose. But if you don't want to be around that, or that it's a deal breaker for you, give me your 60 days.
Yeah. Yeah. And would it say in the lease typically that they have access to the yard? I'm trying to think if I ever include that in my leases. I don't really think I specify. It's just the building that they really get.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of these properties are going to be like duplexes. So what we've done is we've done a duplex conversion on a site on a lot that has over 43 frontage, over 110 depth. So we can right away qualify for up to about 700 square feet minimum.
Yeah. Is it a gross floor area?
Yeah, percentage.
Or is it a lot coverage area?
Lot coverage. Yeah. And the setbacks are what kill you. So
you have to be so far from the back, so far from the side. Exactly. So is there any gross floor area max between the existing building?
The typical lots that are going to have those types of things, like I said, you're above 43 frontage, you're about 110 depth. If you're bigger than that, then go nuts. Like, if you have a big lot, go to town.
Unless, is there an issue if like, say, there's some sort of environmental protection? Yeah. Like, will they stop you from doing it potentially?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, so you got to watch out for that.
Yeah, so there's a few areas that have like floodplain.
Yeah, floodplain. So will they allow that in the floodplain?
They don't even do duplexes in the floodplains right now. Okay,
because in my experience with the Upper Thames Conservation is like they would, if it was within the zoning bylaw, they would allow it. But they hated intensification, and so if you needed a minor variance, you were immediate no.
So they want intensification and similar type of rules, but like I wasn't just willing to take the chance. I wasn't willing to get a client or pick up one ourselves without the city being like, you got to tie it up
and then get the okay. Yeah, there's ways to do that.
How many places have you tied up conditional in the last couple of years?
It's been hard, yeah. But now it's come around, I think. Yeah, a little bit, although I hear realtors saying they're seeing bidding wars again.
Yeah, straight up. I mean, last 2 weeks, our market has taken a turn.
Just really got hot?
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, like I don't know if I like this. I'm seeing 10 offers on a place. I'm like, yeah, like I can see why there's 10 offers, but I can't see it selling for the price it did.
That's not good. So we're going back to what we were seeing before.
I didn't want to say that, but like, and it's like this is 2 weeks, so
it's tough to know. Yeah,
it's enough to be like, I want to watch this, but not enough to be like, hey, there's a really serious trend. But like, we just have no inventory, and so that's why.
Well, that's the supply issue.
And so we could go down that rabbit hole deep, because when I first got into business, I was like, why don't they just build more? My naive Zach was just like, I mean, I know there's lots of builders around. There's money. I know builders make money. Why don't they just build more units? And then I got to what I thought was the bottom of it. I was like, yeah, they're just, one, they're not incentivized. Two, there's not a ton of labor. And three, it's kind of expensive to build.
That's the real thing. Like, I mean, the ADUs would seem a lot more exciting if they didn't cost 250 to 300.
And like,
I mean, the numbers still are great, but it's like 2,400 is a lot for a tenant to pay. Like, we've really pushed the rents.
Rents have been insane. So we had another deal. This was actually the only property that we bought conditionally. We had like a 1 or 2 day inspection on it because we needed our plumber to go take a look at this shanty sump that they put in. And the basement, like the property's over 100 years old. So it's a rubble basement. And like, we're like, we kind of want, I don't scare easy, but I wanted to take a look at this one. And so we bought a 4-plex in downtown Kitchener, fully tenanted. I believe we got it for like $958. And this was just a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, fully tenanted. And it was like break even as is. We're like, break even? We'll take a look at it. And then, we looked at the lot, and the lot was over 160 deep in downtown Kitchener on one of the main streets leaving King Street. And I was just like, ooh, I like that. You show up on site and there's a single detached garage and then a massive lot behind. And I was like, we're doing something with this eventually. Let's wrap this up conditionally, double check our numbers, get the plumber in there. We firmed up on it. And then within the first year, 3 of the 4 tenants just naturally turned over. So all of a sudden we went from break even to like up, I want to say like $1,600 a month, and we painted and cleaned.
How many units was this place?
4.
4 units, and you get the backyard.
I want to build something.
So that's a development play, potentially. How wide is it?
Sorry? That's the thing. It's narrow. It's narrow. There's a nice, beautiful home right beside it and a nice, beautiful home right behind it. But the one beside, meh. And there's apartment buildings surrounding all these lots.
So I had like a 3-hour conversation with a guy that tied up 2 houses side by side and ended up building a massive student complex, like 60 bedrooms, 60 or 70.
So cool.
And he tied both up conditional 1-year closings. So he had the ability to be conditional for 1 year. Gave him a big number, but they weren't looking to sell anyway.
Yeah.
But it was a big number, and if they did, they did. And so he got X number of way through the development process, enough feedback to know that he wanted to proceed.
Yeah.
And so he just pulled the trigger. Even though he wasn't quite there, they gave feedback saying, yeah, we're on board.
Yeah.
And he's got like primo student.
And see, that is just one example of like, there are so many ways to get a deal.
Like, think about that.
There's
Like,
so
you
many
approach
ways to
the
get
owners, knock on their door, offer them a price that's more than what their home's worth when they weren't looking to sell.
Yeah.
But it's conditional for a year. That shouldn't bother them because they weren't even looking to sell.
But I'm getting such a big number. It's like, ooh, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah. Say, hey, like, this may or may not work for me. Full transparency. I have to try something.
Yeah.
So are you into this? I mean, I think so many people are very reasonable. I mean, I think a lot of people, I get questions, people who reach out to me about tenants and, hey, I have this issue. And I'm like, well, have you just literally been honest with your tenants just like you were honest with me? I'm like, just talk to them. They're people.
It's a crazy thing. I think a lot of investors really kind of miss that because they're focused on the idea and the business and the investment. And it's just like, you have to realize that you're dealing with people.
Just people. Like, if you have an issue, like, for instance, like if I'm going to sell a place and I have a tenant in there, if it's a single family, like 95% that the buyer is going to be a owner occupier. And if that's the case, then why not me propose a win-win to the tenant? They get a free month rent or something and say, hey, would you be willing to just give your notice and go look for a place?
And as an agent that sells properties, like having those conversations up front is something that we do with our investors. A lot of investors will have, like, what we're seeing, especially in our network and in Kitchener, is people that have successful single family rentals. And they're doing that exact same thing. They're going to roll those profits from the single family rentals they've had for like 10 years. Because 10 years ago, you could cash flow a house or a townhouse or a semi. And then they're like, oh, well, like, I made some good money now. Let's roll it into something more serious long-term, i.e. a multi-unit. And then we'll propose things like that all the time. Because it's going to show better.
Yeah.
You're going to sell it for more money. And
you got to get the tenant out of there, unfortunately.
Even if it's the best tenant ever, I'm telling you right now.
Unless you're selling to a turnkey buyer. Like, unless you're an off-market, direct-to-buyer kind of thing. Like, that's how I used to sell my student rentals. Like, I wouldn't even list them. We'd go straight to people who had buyers who wanted that. Yeah. And we'd tenant them.
Yeah, you can go through once, and then they're going to make up their mind like that. Yeah, it is a big difference.
Yeah. So unfortunately, because no one wants to get the tenants out, they don't want to have that conversation. It sucks. It does. But
awful. If
you just realize that it's people and people, have the conversation. It sucks. They don't want to hear it. You don't want to say it. But they get where you're coming from. Yeah. I say it. Hey, I don't want to be having this conversation. I wish it wasn't this way. But this is what we got to do. We're selling it, and this is realistically what's going to happen.
I think honesty, especially with your tenants, is typically one of the best policies. Like, they're just people.
For sure. Okay, Zach, we've gone overtime here. Any words of wisdom, things you'd like to share with the audience here?
Words of wisdom. Like, go out and make it happen. Like, I know a few other people on the show have said that, but like, I was never somebody that was going to do something like this. And all of a sudden you get good at executing one thing, you get to learning, you get good at being around the right people. And all of a sudden your mind, like, I am further now than I ever thought I would be in my entire life. And it's been 5 years. So I'm like really curious how far we can push it for the next 10. For people that want anything Waterloo region, like, we want to be, and I know I'm going to be in business in Waterloo region for the next 20 years. That's where I'm going to raise my family. We got a new baby, an 8-week-old this week. And like, that's where I want to raise our family. That's where my family is. That's where my businesses are. And, we want to be, major people in the residential real estate in 20 years. So get involved in the construction, getting involved in development, starting property management this year for our own stuff, and really want to be a leader so that all the people that are buying homes from us or starting their first investment properties, we can drag them along with us. Because I learned pretty early, I could probably go a little bit quicker myself, but I'm going to run into a wall. Like, you can definitely go further together. And you know what? I like having fun and I like friends. So
yeah, there's something to be said about that, because you push each other.
Yeah. And it's just way more fun. Like, real estate can be a real lonely game.
Sure,
as a real estate
it is.
agent, but like, having friends, having a team, like, we have a good time and you get further together. So like, win-win.
Okay, where do people contact you or follow you?
Instagram at Phipps Brittain Real Estate, PHIPPS, and then Brittain. My real estate partner, Matt Phipps, he's proper English from Leicester, and my last name is Brittain, and I'm like super Canadian. So we get in some banter about that. We do an investor hot list as well. So like, if people just want like an email blast once a week for what's going on in Waterloo region real estate, totally free. I do it personally. I look at all the deals. I make some comments on them, kind of share what I'm seeing for offers. You can find that on our website at phippsbrittinrealestate.com. And then YouTube. We've been doing some stuff with the Canadian Real Estate channel, social mediation, and our own YouTube channel, YouTube Phipps Brittain Real Estate, or the Canadian Real Estate channel. We do monthly videos there.
Nice. All right. Well, appreciate you coming over. And
this was a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for the donuts as well, by the way. Vegan donuts.
Bloomers. Shout out Bloomers.
Yeah.
Vegan donuts in Burlington.
Yeah. I got to take one home to my wife. So anyways, appreciate it. And it's good connecting with you again.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on.
There are a lot of people out there talking about the infinite banking strategy and whether or not it makes sense for them. To find out what it's all about and if it's a fit for you, visit controlandcompound.com/Andrew Hines, where my audience can gain exclusive access to books, podcasts, and webinars tailor-made for real estate investors.